And on the way, we did have some of us that were eaten by wild animals.
Matthew is one of about 3,500 South Sudanese in San Diego, part of a worldwide diaspora. In January, many in the community cast their votes in the independence referendum. Chuol Tut runs San Diego's South Sudanese Community Center.
I was born in the war and grew up in the war, and now is the time to vote. That means it's going to be my last bullet for that war.
Refugees who came to the U.S. from South Sudan did not have an easy time. When Agnes Olwar arrived 17 years ago, America was far from what she had imagined.
When I got there, it was one-bedroom apartment with 5 or 6 guys, roommates, then plus me and 2 younger kids in one-bedroom apartment. And you can imagine how can we live like this? You know, there is a lot of drug dealers going around. There is a lot of shooting going around. So I tell my husband, I wish I'd go back, live in refugee camp other than, because I was scared all the time.
Now she's the proud owner of her own hairdressing business with a child in college. But South Sudan beckons. Even though they've spent years making their lives here in the United States, many South Sudanese say they're eager to return to their homeland and help build a new country.
When the peace comes, all those people will be going back to Sudan, and they will come with a skill, whatever the skill they have, to bring that nation. That will build up the country. I have to go back and do whatever I can for those people who need the skill.
Matthew Riek, who now has a master's degree in public administration, wants to work for the new government.
One could be thought of as crazy if you want to go back there. But for me, you know, having gotten to where I am today, especially with the education that I've gotten, I feel like, you know, I would do a disservice to my country where I was born, you know, if I don't go there and do something.
Agnes Olwar, too, is ready to leave the relative comfort of life in California for something deeper and more meaningful.
I really want to go back and help out. And also we have like a lot of family that has been scattered all over the world. I wish one day we can just go back and be as family one time. We can have a place we can call home.
Rob Reynolds, Al Jazeera, San Diego, California.
Thai and Cambodian troops have clashed for a 4th day along a disputed border near a 900-year-old temple. Cambodia says that only UN peacekeepers can stop the fighting. Thailand accuses Cambodia of refusing to negotiate. The fighting has forced residents to flee from their rural villages. Wayne Hay has this report.
Living near the Thai-Cambodia border can come at a cost. In recent days, an ongoing land dispute has shattered the peace in this otherwise sleepy Thai settlement. The owner of this house told us she managed to evacuate before a Cambodian artillery shell landed at her back door. This was the scene the night before, dozens of Thai shells streaking across the sky towards Cambodia. Despite the aggression from both sides, the Thai Prime Minister called for a peaceful solution, but said his country will continue to defend itself.
When there is firing into Thai territory, it's necessary for Thailand to protect its sovereignty. We counter the attack and we return fire only at military targets.
However, Cambodian television showed footage of the ancient Preah Vihear temple in the middle of the disputed area, which they allege was damaged by shelling. In Thai territory, the soldiers remain on edge. At checkpoints, supplies are being rushed to the front line. The border villages are now largely deserted. People who have stayed behind say they're ready for more fighting. They've armed themselves and are preparing new bunkers to shelter in. Those who aren't digging in are being catered for in the relative safety of a nearby town. The residents who have fled the fighting have come here to evacuation centres. In this one alone, there are around 9,000 people. Most of them say they're in no mood to go home anytime soon.
I will continue to stay here until the fighting stops.
Given the tension on the border, these people may be here for some time yet. Wayne Hay, Al Jazeera, Kantaralak, Thailand.
All right, let's turn to financial news now, and we'll start with President Barack Obama, who's promised business leaders that he will reduce corporate taxes, but he warned companies that manufacturing jobs should not go overseas.
So the key to our success has never been just developing new ideas. It's also been making new products. So Intel pioneers the microchip and then puts thousands to work building them in Silicon Valley. Henry Ford perfects the assembly line and then puts a generation to work in the factories of Detroit. That's how we built the largest middle class in the world.
President Barack Obama. Online company AOL is buying news website The Huffington Post for $315 million. It's AOL's biggest acquisition since the company separated from Time Warner back in 2009. Al Jazeera's John Terrett has this report.
The Huffington Post is one of the most powerful online publications of its kind, already among the top 10 global news sites. Not bad for a start-up just 6 years old. The Huffington Post has a small team that break their own stories, but its reputation has been built on trawling other news websites for headlines and exclusives and then publishing them all in one place on the Huffington Post.
You can send me anything, Ariana@HuffingtonPost.com.
The site gets its name from founder Ariana Huffington, the one-time Greek shipping heiress turned astute businesswoman who will join the board of AOL as part of the deal. By adding the Huffington Post to its growing stable of websites like MapQuest and the ultra-local news-based Patch.com, AOL is hoping to attract more eyeballs to its own struggling site.
I know there's going to be some speculation.
AOL's been having a tough time after it was dumped by Time Warner when their much-trumpeted merger from year 2000 fell apart. AOL's revenue from online commercials and dial-up connections shrank sharply in 2010, and it hopes that by building up its portfolio of websites like the Huffington Post, advertising cash will soon start flowing its way once again. John Terrett, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Going to take you to some dramatic pictures from Brazil now, where fire has destroyed hundreds of costumes and floats, and that's ahead of this year's carnival in Rio de Janeiro. The fire broke out in warehouses used by the city's samba schools early on Monday. You can see the smoke just billowing into the sky there. Not surprisingly, it took firefighters a long time, 4 hours to put it out. Samba groups called the loss catastrophic, but Rio's mayor says the carnival will still go ahead as planned. This is Al Jazeera. These are the stories making the headlines. A new video has emerged of the most violent night of the demonstrations in Egypt. The images show protesters on both sides of the divide suffered brutal attacks during clashes during Wednesday night into the early hours of Thursday. On day 14 of the demonstrations, thousands of pro-democracy supporters held a symbolic funeral for a journalist killed during the violence. Thousands of protesters are still on the streets calling for the end of Hosni Mubarak's reign. The new cabinet has held its first full meeting since the start of the uprising. The government's promised a 15% pay rise for public sector workers in a bid to appease the protesters. Moving on, southern Sudan has voted overwhelmingly to break away from the north. Official results confirm that 98.83% backs secession. A new nation will be created on July the 9th.
The number of those who voted in favor of the unity, 44,488, and those who voted for secession, 3,792,518, with a percentage of 1.17% and 98.83% of the total valid votes.
The founder of WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, has returned to court in the United Kingdom. The judge is expected to rule on whether he should be extradited to Sweden to answer allegations of rape.
5.5 months. We have been in a condition where a black box has been applied to my life. And on the outside of that black box has been written the word rape. That box is now, thanks to an open court process, being opened.
The Cambodian government says heavy shelling by the Thai army has caused part of an 11th century temple to collapse. Fighting over the past 4 days has forced thousands of Thai villagers to flee the disputed border region. Hundreds of Cambodians have also been evacuated from the region. Both countries lay claim to the area surrounding the temple. UN Chief Ban Ki-moon is said to be deeply concerned about the standoff and has called for maximum restraint. Those are the headlines. Coming up next is Empire.
As Washington's allies stumble, one